You're all extremely welcome here this morning, and it's a great pleasure to be here again. It actually seems quite not that long ago since we actually were in this room, so it's just to show you time is flying very, very fast. But anyway, a sincere welcome to each and every one of you this morning, and I want to acknowledge that you've travelled to be here today, and I acknowledge that may not be simple for some of you. So thank you very much for making yourselves available and attending here this morning. And I just want to send a special word of welcome to the new young carers. I see one or two of you here in the room, so it's a pleasure to see you. And I hope each and every one of you get something out of the morning. I also want to warmly welcome those that are online for this event. And your participation is equally as important to us. So please feel free. We encourage you to submit your comments and feedback on our Slido. Beg your pardon, I always get that word wrong. Slido. So we can hear your thoughts and opinions as well. The Annual Carers Forum is an important event for the Department of Social Protection. As part of our commitment under the National Carers Strategy, the Forum ensures that carers have a voice, you have a voice, in the policy level, shaping direction that we take in relation to what we do. So it's a very important event to make sure that you get your contribution forward and that we hear what you have to say. We place a high value on this engagement, whether it's through these events like the Carers Forum, which is this event we're here today, the Disability Consultative Forum, meeting with the community and voluntary sector, which is on next week. And I apologise to those in advance. Kieran Lawler is going to take that one for me because I have to be someplace else. But the Pre-Budget Forum, these discussions are important and they inform the policies and better serving yourselves. So we can better serve you and your families. This morning is an opportunity for you to share your concerns, highlight key issues and make your voice heard. I hope you will find the event not only productive and worthwhile, but also a chance to connect with with a similar situation as your own, similar roles. We recognise over the past few years has been particularly difficult. With rising costs, putting extra pressure on families, we know that many of these challenges affect you as well, and we're very conscious of that. I want to assure you that the Department is actively listening here today. We're here to hear what you have to say. We are committed to responding to your needs through the various income and supports measures and provide whatever we can in relation to that. The number of recipients of the Carers Allowance has steadily increased over the last number of years. We're now at 101,426, which is the highest number ever. This is an increase of 14% over the last 10 years, 5 years, I beg your pardon. Similarly, carers benefit recipients have increased to 4,200. So there's a great demand with an increase of 50% over the last 5 years, which is a major increase. The number of domiciliary care allowance recipients has also risen significantly. We now have 58,801 DCA recipients, an increase of almost 33% in the last 5 years, which is a substantial increase in the numbers. Processing for carers allowance, which we're very proud of at the moment, has improved substantially since 2019 on a continuous basis. We now are at 6 weeks response time on most cases, and actually 95% of all carers claims are done within the 10 weeks target. So it's a very good target and we are quite proud of that. And actually, we continue to push at that to ensure that we actually provide the service that you require, the service that makes your lives more easy and don't have to be waiting for things to be processed for you. Additionally, domiciliary care can now be applied for online. This is a big achievement. We've moved online with domiciliary care, and I think I heard yesterday something like 1,200 customers have used that service already. So that's very encouraging. It's by the end of the year, we will hope to have carers allowance and carers benefit online as well. And again, in doing the domiciliary care, went out to domiciliary care recipients and asked them for their feedback in relation to what we would provide them with. We're going to do the same thing in relation to carers allowance as well. So we speak to people who use the service to make sure that what we actually provide to you is something that you can understand. Our primary objective in doing all of this is that first we make it easier for you. You can get your services from your own PC in your own home or your own laptop or whatever, or your own phone, but also that actually it's easy for you to get through and to actually complete your applications. Spending on carers payments is up at 1.9 billion at the minute. this year. And I'd like to recognise the commitment of all the people working hard on carers' issues and concerns, those of you here in the room today. I'm grateful to Family Carers Ireland and Carers Alliance Ireland, who assist us in organising today's event and who both will be presenting later on at the event. Carers Alliance Ireland will be presenting on their online family carer support project. The presentation focuses on Re-emerging 2 project and the online family care support project. Family Carers Ireland will present on delivering the National Carers Guarantee. So we look forward to those presentations immediately after I finish this address. Over many years in the department, I've witnessed firsthand the strong relationship and open communication and dialogue we have with the carers associations. And I'm very happy with that. I'm very proud of it because it actually does allow us to do good business together and to build, today is another thing, to build on that relationship into the future. I would also like to acknowledge and thank colleagues from other government departments and organisations for coming here today. These are the Departments of Health, the Department of Children, Disability, Equality, Department of Housing and Local Government and Heritage, the Department of Further and Higher Education, Research, Innovation and Science, the National Transport Authority and TUSLA. So we have good representation across government here today to hear your comments, your concerns and your dialogue. I'm especially pleased to welcome the Minister for Social Protection here this morning to address us all. By his attendance, the Minister demonstrates his personal commitment to advancing the issues affecting family carers. So the fact that he takes this morning here to be us is very laudable, and it also means that actually he's got here to hear what you have to say as well. So this still builds on, it's your opportunity to get your message out. I also recognise that our Secretary General, John McKeown, is with you as well this morning, over there along the window. So you have most of those who have positions in the department present, and Ronan and his team as well. Before I hand over, a couple of housekeeping things. One, I would ask that you do not record today. We're doing a recording of this event today, which will be available later on. But please don't record it while you're here. Also, there's a photographer going around taking photographs. If you don't want your photograph taken, just say so, because he's just taking random photographs throughout the day. So if there's anybody who feels they don't wish their photograph taken, all you have to do is just say that you don't, if that's okay. So at this point, it is with great pleasure that I'm going to hand over to our 2 presentations. To Zoe Hughes, Senior Policy and Research Officer, Carers Alliance Ireland, who will present on the topic of family carer support projects. And then and Catherine Cox will actually head of communications and policy of Family Carers Ireland, and Sinead Tighe will present on delivering the National Carers Guarantee when Zoe finishes. So, with great pleasure, I'm handing over to Zoe.
Super. Hi, everybody. Sorry, I was a little bit enthusiastic. I never know when to get up in those moments. You don't want dead air at these things, you know. So as Teresa said, my name is Zoe Hughes. I'm the Senior Policy and Research Officer with Care Alliance Ireland. For those of you who don't know, Care Alliance Ireland, we are a membership organisation made up of not-for-profit groups who work to support family carers. We focus a lot on research and policy, hence me, but we also have a couple of direct-to-family carers projects that we started since COVID, and they're all delivered online. So I'm going to talk about 2 of those today. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Re-emerge 2. It's got a very snazzy subtitle, The Next Chapter is for You, which I really like. I cannot take credit for that. That's a very snazzy title that I had nothing to do with. So the project background. So it's actually our 4th employment readiness project that we've delivered since COVID, since 2021. So in that time, we've worked alongside over 250 family carers trying to return to employment or into education and further training since 2021, so in 4 years. And in that time, we've supported 60 family carers with support securing employment and I think over 100 family carers returning to or entering education for the first time. Did I skip ahead? I think I'm reading off the wrong slide here. Sorry about that. Our previous projects, we delivered employment-focused interventions. You've got CV prep, you've got IT training, and employment coaching. But while we were doing that project and while we were kind of looking and focusing on education, training, really practical supports, we realized there was a need for a more holistic approach, because for those of family carers who are either coming back to employment after a time away caring, or who are entering it for the first time perhaps, it can be very emotional. There's often a big gap. It can be quite intense to go back to work. And so we kind of realized very quickly there was a need for a more holistic approach. And so we increased our well-being supports within that. And those included things like fitness promotion, there was yoga, nutritional education, mental health support, bereavement supports, and really trying to foster a peer community. So really trying to foster connections between family carers who are entering into this world, maybe for the first time or after a break or whatever it might be. Because I think a lot of people here who are family carers will understand that there's a lot of energy you expend explaining your situation and where you've come from. So it's nice to just have someone who gets it and has been there and is there currently, or is maybe a little further along than you, or maybe you can help somebody who's a little kind of where you were a little while ago. Basic on those projects that we had. Reemerge 2, which is currently open for registration. So if you are interested, if any of you are interested in more information about this, we have some leaflets that we can give you. Come up to me and we'll make sure you have a leaflet that has more information. We've got some new things in Reemerge 2. So we've got one-to-one professional mentoring, which will happen throughout the project, and it'll extend past the end of the project also. We have an increased focus on education. And so rather than just purely on getting into the workforce, it's about getting the proper training and education that you need to get into where you want to be eventually. And then we have some increased advocacy with employers as well built into that. So just to acknowledge our funders, we are funded by the Department of Social Protection via the Dormant Accounts Fund, which is administered by Pobal, so we just want to make sure that we always acknowledge our funders any time we speak and say thank you. We wouldn't be able to do these projects without that funding. So what does all of this mean? What does it actually look like in practice? And what are some of the activities? So here you've got a slide looking at the kind of the more practical side of things. Like I said, we've got sort of 3 areas that we look at. The first one is practical training. So you've got mentoring, you've got preparing for interviews and looking at your CV. You've got IT training. Do I know how to use Zoom? Well, I mean, everybody knows how to use Zoom since, you know, the big crisis of 2020 when everything went onto Zoom. So there's that, there's looking at job sourcing, there's looking at further education support. So all those real practical tips that are there. So that's the practical side of things. Then you've got mental health support. And so I think it's a real critical part of those well-being supports that we have is access to mental health support, looking at mindfulness and meditation, confidence building and peer interaction. Obviously, each of those things by themselves isn't necessarily going to make a huge difference, but everything works together along with the practical stuff and along with the physical health supports, which I'll speak about in a minute, to really kind of try and look at a holistic way of ensuring people can get back to the education or employment that they want to. And then we have physical health supports. We have nutritional education, yoga and chair yoga, and exercise classes as well that can be taken. And remember, all of this is online, so you can do it kind of when you want, when it suits you. Because we're very aware that family carers don't always have the luxury of being able to say, yes, I can definitely be there every single week at that time. It's just not going to happen. You know, things come up and your priority is always going to be your caring if you're currently caring. And that's just how it is. So we've tried to adapt and build around that. There's some feedback from past participants here. I mean, you know, we've chosen the really positive ones, obviously, but we did get feedback that also told us what we could improve on, what we needed to do better, and so we've tried to do that in this next iteration, and particularly that was around the wellness and the more holistic aspects of things. So you can kind of see there that really it seems to be quite life-changing for people, which is really gratifying to know that that's happening, and transformed people and put people on a journey maybe that they were a bit unsure of or not really knowing how to get there. So how does it work? How do you guys register if you want to? Well, family carers complete a registration form, which is online, which I'll have the link to up in a second, and are contacted by our staff to arrange an induction. And that induction really looks at, is it a good fit for you? Is it the right time for you? What do you need to be able to get onto the course? What supports do you need to get started and then keep going? There's then a monthly timetable of activities, and everything, like I said, is delivered online via Zoom. And usually the workshops that we do take place on Thursday mornings, but everything is recorded for participants to look back on. So if you can't make that, that's absolutely fine. You can catch up in your own time, and that's the kind of flexibility that we built into it, because like I said, being able to commit to 1 day a week every single time and panicking about missing it and going, oh no, have I missed something? Am I going to be, it's not feasible, it's not practical when you're working with family carers, as you guys all know. So that's why we have that flexibility built in. And then this year, participants can avail of one-to-one meetings with the project staff. We have 3 fantastic staff who I'll talk about, who will support with mentoring, IT training, all that stuff outside of the coursework. So there's a lot of built-in support, baked-in support from our staff as well, to make sure that you have the supports you need and that you can kind of continue. And if you need to take a break, you can do that, because, like I said, caring is not linear and things happen and stuff just happens, and you just have to work around it. So that we're very keen to make sure we do that. And the participants can choose to attend the workshops most relevant to them. So whatever works most, you might be really kind of go, yeah, actually, you know what? I'm really good on tech stuff, but I really have no idea how to source a job. I'm really unsure about what my CV looks like. So we can very much tailor that to you. And can take part for the entirety of the project, which started last month and runs until April 2026. But it's a rolling sign up. So if you've missed April, doesn't matter, just get in contact with us and you can come in at any stage. And that's the benefit as well of having everything pre-recorded, so you can look back and catch up on the stuff that you might have missed in the timetable. And the mentoring, we've built in extra time for the mentoring. So even after the program finishes in April of next year, the mentoring, the one-to-one stuff will be available to people, to participants, until the end of September. So there's an extra couple of months baked in there for extra support, so we're not just going to leave you hanging. So if you are interested to take part, you can go to that link, carolines.ie/reemerge. There's the email there, or you can call Amy, who is our project coordinator. We also have Jacqueline and Anne-Marie, who are new to our staff team in the last couple of months, and they're fantastic. They're really going gung-ho at this, and it's been a really wonderful experience. So I'd encourage anybody who's interested to give them a shout and have a chat with them, see if it's something that works for you. If you know of somebody, if you're supporting somebody who's a family carer who might be interested, please just get in touch and have a chat. Informal, absolutely. You don't have to commit to anything at all. That sounded like a real sales pitch. My goodness me, I should change careers. So that's the Reemerge. I'm going to take the next minute or so of my allotted time to speak very briefly about the Online Family Care Support Project, which is the second project that we run online. And so we're funded by the HSE for this, so we always want to acknowledge that. So I'm not going to take loads of time. We've spoken about this before, and we've been kind of going since 2000. The lockdown happened on the 13th of March, and we started a group on the 16th, myself and our CEO, Liam. And unfortunately, we don't have a jazzy name like Reemerge, the next chapters for you. We just called it the Online Family Care Support Group because we panicked 3 days into lockdown, and we're like, we just need a title. That's fine. It says what it is. So that's where we are. The point was to try and make sure that people had access to reliable, trustworthy information. That was the real big thing during COVID, those early days of COVID. And to make sure those connections between family carers who were isolated, even more so than usual, was able to be facilitated, and to signpost to services and other organisations that were doing the work that we don't have the capacity to do. And there's fantastic organisations out there like Family Carers Ireland, for example, who have much more capacity than we do to do that kind of work. So we try and make sure people know about that. You can see there that the main objectives were to increase the overall well-being of family carers and to reduce the negative impacts such as loneliness and isolation. They're lofty aims, but we think we're getting there. That's just a screenshot, so you know what it looks like if you search for it on Facebook. We have online activities, so we've got quiz nights where I get to dress up in fun costumes once a month for a themed quiz, which is super. My favourite was when I was a ghost for Halloween, where I just wore a sheet, that classic 1980s Irish costume. It didn't really work very well with my headset, but we managed. We've got art classes, we've got a gardening club, and that's all done online. We collaborate as best we can as well with other organisations, signposting, like I said, referring to other organisations. We also run some joint courses and activities where we can, and we're always open to collaborating with other organisations, where you can see some of the organisations that we've had either talks from, that we refer to, that have come in to speak to us and let our members know what's going on and what they can avail of. As I said, We're very pleased that we got recurring funding for the project from the HSE in 2021. So the project will continue. So if I'm not too sure if we're taking questions, probably not, but those are the links there that you can find us. If you just search for Family Care Online Support Group on Facebook, you'll find us there. So thank you for your time and attention. That's me.
I'm small now, so I'm going to have to bring this down. How are you all? Okay, my name is Catherine Cox. I work with Family Cares Ireland. I'm going to tear through this because I've told I've only 10 minutes, less. Okay, so let's see, is that working there? Yeah. Okay, now some of these figures are a little outdated. Teresa, you mentioned we've gone over the 100,000 mark in terms of carers receiving carers allowance. But I think the ones I want to zoom in on here are there are 500,000 family carers in this country today. They're providing care to children, adults, older people. And they are saving our state 20 billion euro every year. So you, family carers, saving our state 20 billion euro, providing 19 million hours of care every single week in your own homes. I think another important one to say there is that 61% female, 39% male. 20 years ago, that was 80-20. So more men coming into the caring role. Who are they caring for? They're caring for children, they're caring for adults. 68% probably caring for a son or a daughter. 13% a spouse or partner, and 22% caring for parents or parents-in-law. That's all the stats I'm going to say, other than we did do some research back in 2024, and all of the carers surveyed, 72% of them told us they have never had access to respite. And I think that's a really important point to note, and I'm going to talk about that a little more. Okay, so why should we support family carers? First of all, the assurance of a consistent level of supports and services for family carers in every part of Ireland, in their community, where they need it, when they need it, will have an immediate and very positive impact on their welfare and resilience. And it will mean they will be able to continue, you will be able to continue to care full-time safely in your home. And the kind of supports that we're talking about here in services, but not limited to, is funding a fair and adequate non-means test for family carers. And I know I have the Minister here, so I'm going to push that one home. We need a non-means test. That you can call it a participation income for carers, whatever you call it, we need to see that. It's in the programme for government, there's a commitment there. In the short term, we do need to see the income disregard raised to bring more family carers into that net, but that's directly at the Minister there today. We also need to see a fully funded carer guarantee, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that, but basically what that means is that every carer has access to supports and services in their community when they need them. We need a right to respite, and that's a statutory right to respite. And again, I'm going to talk about that and emergency respite in my next few slides as well. We need a statutory home care scheme. We have one for Fair Deal. We don't have it for care in the home. We obviously need adequate housing and transport. Again, we're going to be talking about all of these in the workshops today. And then we need supports for carers juggling paid care with work, or paid work with care. And Zoe spoke a little bit about that as well. But why also should we support family carers? Because by supporting family carers, we're also supporting our health services. We have fewer cancelled hospital appointments because their carers are bringing them. We have better medication compliance because carers are overseeing that. We have delayed admission into hospital. We have people needing to stay a lot less time in hospital. And then we have a reduction in hospital readmission. So it's a win-win. It's a win for carers and it's a win for our government. It's a win for our society. I mentioned the carer guarantee. What is it? So back in 2018, Family Carers Ireland presented a paper to government called a carers guarantee. What that means is we said that we want to eliminate the postcode lottery that exists for carer supports and services in this country. In other words, if I live in Cork, I can get access to respite. If I live in Donegal, there's no respite. So we want to eliminate that postcode lottery, whereby every family carer has access to the supports and services they need in their community when they need them. In 2020, in the programme for government, they committed to funding a carers guarantee. We're now actually in 2025, we have about half the funding towards that. So it's better than it was, but if we want to eliminate the postcode lottery, we need all of that funding. So that is a message to our Minister for Health, that we need to see that funding coming through. This is, I suppose, a snapshot of what we did last year with that guarantee funding. So we did over 5,500 counselling hours for family carers, 3,000 one-to-one support. So that's intensive supports with carers. It can involve respite, it can involve counselling, it can involve looking at their paid work, bringing their family into that equation as well. We provided over 4,300 carers access to support groups, meeting other carers, their peers. We supported 48,000 through our social media communities and over 500,000 through our website. A lot of our supports are one-to-one, face-to-face, because that's often where carers want to meet us. But we also have a huge amount of online and supports as well, because we know people can access it where they want, when they want. So to eliminate the postcode lottery, we need that additional funding. That will allow us double the number of individual supports to go to 6,000, double our targeted supports, hugely increase our counselling support. We have waiting lists for our counselling because we cannot give that service. It will allow us to put community care clinics in the community, and it will also allow us to develop additional wellbeing programmes. So it is crucial. This is just a testimonial from one of our family carers who said the counselling was the most positive experience I've experienced in my life. It was like I found someone who truly understood me. And she said, I will carry our sessions into the world and my life and greatly appreciate the opportunity Family Carers Ireland provided me to help cope with life demands. Thank you. I mentioned also emergency respite. Emergency respite, this is literally a lifeline for family carers, for the most vulnerable and distressed family carers. But again, they need it when they need it, and they should get it. Last year, we were able to provide 257 emergency respite packages. It is a drop in the ocean. However, for those families, it was hugely crucial. The breakdown of those are, some of them are in-home respite, some are residential respite. Some of them are over 65, some under 65. Those referrals, 61% of those referrals were carers who were just burnt out, couldn't do it anymore. 27 were for a carer health crisis. Carers ignore their own health because they're caring for somebody else. So that emergency respite is crucial. We have never advertised it. Why? Because we can't, because we have a very limited amount of funding. We don't want to create an expectation for carers that we simply cannot fulfil. We don't want a waiting list. So in order for us to provide that emergency respite to carers who need it, that funding needs to be ongoing, recurring, and increased as well. There's a impact statement from a carer who received the emergency respite. I'm just going to read the one line. I felt so relieved that somebody heard my cry. And I think that just says it all. I don't need to read any more on that one. Respite care as well, and this is respite care in general. We know respite care is the cornerstone of formal support for family carers. It gives you a break from your caring role when you need it. It also helps prevent residential placements, helps prevent carer burnout, and just ensures that the carer's quality of life is good as well as the person they're caring for. I mentioned earlier in our State of Caring research last year, 72% of carers surveyed never accessed research. So this is a crucial problem and a challenge for thousands of family carers across the country. So what's the solution? We need a respite strategy, and we need one that is planned and that works. We need to look at what is the demand for respite in this country. We need to know what is the supply of respite in this country. And we need to look at what are the gaps in between and how can we fill them. So in order to do that, we need to do what we call a dynamic mapping exercise. Over 2 years, we can look and see where is the demand coming from, what carers are being turned down for respite, and based on that information, we can then plan an adequate respite strategy to ensure that every family carer has a right to respite when they need it and where they need it. And no better person to talk about this than Sinead Tighe, family carer, who I'm going to introduce now. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Sinead Ty and I'm a full-time carer for my son Daniel. Respite care is crucial to me as it gives me a break from my caring role. It allows me to focus on my physical, mental and emotional well-being. I can spend time in my immediate family, meet friends or focus on some self-care or more importantly, get some sleep that I greatly need. These things are impossible for me to do on a regular basis as I care for my son full-time. It also gives me the peace of mind that when Daniel is in respite, he's with trained professionals that can fully meet his need, and I do not have to worry at that time. Respite care needs to be given more regularly to all carers to give them a break from the stressful role that they do of caring and enable us to sustain the ability to care for a long time and to make sure we can provide that care for our loved ones in a full, fit state. If we don't get this, it puts all carers at a risk of burnout, something which happened to me 2 years ago. We also need to know that if we have an emergency in our lives, that we have a backup to call on someone. That is very important for us to know, and we need to be reassured of that. And that is why the emergency respite care that is given from family carers is vital. I hope I never have to use it, but at least I know that it's there and gives me that peace of mind. One thing to everyone today is that we all work in a society and we all have a job to do. But in your job, you get planned holidays throughout your year and days off. We do not get that time and we cannot plan. So we need more regular respite in our lives. So one, we can live normally with our families. The people that we care for can also live normally in our communities. And then we all can care for a lot longer. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sinead, and thanks very much to our Zoe and our other presenter. Now we're going to make a slight change to the agenda now, so with a bit of tolerance on your behalf, your tea break has been pushed back for a few minutes, and we're going to hear from the Minister for Social Protection, Dara Calleary. So welcome, Minister.
Thank you, Teresa. Good morning, everybody. I want to thank Catherine and Zoe, in particular Sinead, for your address. I want to thank Teresa, Ronan and all of the team for organising the forum today. I know shortly after I took up office, the team locked us into the diary as one of the more important days of the year in terms of hearing direct feedback. And while I thank Catherine and Zoe for their work, always, Catherine, especially for your ongoing work, I think Sinead brought it right home to us. What exactly today is about is to hear directly the lived experience. So thank you, Sinead, and message heard. That's all I can say at this point. I want to really say that at the outset of my term as Minister, I want to really outline how much I regard and recognise the crucial role, but you want to hear more than that. And over the course of the next 4 years, we will be delivering on the commitments that are within the programme for government and working with the various caring groups in delivering on those and in responding to new challenges that may arise. The programme for government has reference to carers more than 20 times and outlines a number of very serious commitments. And as Minister of Social Protection, I will just see meaningful progress on those. But it very much brought me home this morning, both Catherine and Sinead, that we all work across government in this basis. One thing that really fries my head is the siloed nature of government and how it gets in the way of delivering service and delivering to people who are doing the job that you're doing. So certainly we will work across government to deliver on that. Since you met with Minister Humphreys last year and with the team, there's been a number of improvements to payments for carers. And next week, we will be paying the carers support grant of just €2,000, which is the highest level ever, which will be paid to 137,000, as Catherine has said, on Thursday, the 5th of June. And we will continue in July with the increase in the weekly income disregards. From July, for single cars, the disregard will go from €450 to €625. For cars with a spouse or a partner, from €900 to €1,250. So this will access and allow the carers opportunity to open up to more people. It's an important step in the journey that we've committed to in the programme for government. With these increases, which kick in July, a carer in a two-adult household with an income of approximately $69,000 will retain the maximum payment. The same carer with an income of $97,000 will retain a partial payment. And before the disregards were increased in June 2022, those figures stood at $37,000 and $60,000 respectively for a carer in a two-adult household couple. Since the start of 2022, the number of carers, as Teresa has referenced, on carers allowance has increased by over 8,000 to over 101,000, and the income in the disregards means that many current recipients will actually receive a higher payment, which is really, really important. And from July, 99% of existing carers allowance recipients will get the full rate of their entitlement. There are other developments. Carers allowance is now included as a qualifying payment for the fuel allowance. It's once the qualifying conditions for other fuel allowance are satisfied, and carers benefit has been extended to the self-employed for the first time, which took effect from January. The rates of payment are increasing. The monthly rate of DCA has increased by €50 since January 2023 and now stands at €360, while the carers allowance and carers benefit increased by €41 over the last 4 years. But I'm very cognizant of the figures supplied by Catherine in relation to the pressure on the carers' income is under. And she and the organisations continuously bring that to her attention. It's something we will work on. Pension provision has been a key concern for many carers for many, many years. And a major step forward was taken under Minister Humphreys in January 2024 with the introduction of the Long-Term Carers Contribution Scheme. The reform enables those who've been caring for 20 years or more to qualify for a contributory state pension, which will give thousands of carers the recognition they long deserve and provide an income support for later years. I know and I've heard at first hand what this means, but I know we've more work to do in this space as well. However, by the end of April 2025, there were over 11,000 applications since the introduction of the scheme. Over 8,000 people have been awarded long-term carers contributions, and of that 8,000, 6,000 are women. The carers allowance means test is the biggest issue for many of you. The programme for government commits to significantly increase the income disregard for carers allowance in each budget with an aim to phasing out the means test during the lifetime of this government. The changes that will occur in July represent a very significant step forward, and it is important and it is a priority for me and for the government that we will continue to make progress in this way, but we will do so in a way that's sustainable and that balances the allocation of other resources across all priorities. Those resources include funding services to other vulnerable groups, and that's why we will do it in a measured and a phased way, but we will do it. And that is a key commitment from the party leaders within the programme for government. And in relation to the other issues highlighted by Catherine, and indeed the work highlighted by Zoe in terms of her support groups, I can assure you that we'll be advocating strongly on behalf of carers in the forthcoming budget process. The pre-budget submissions, it is that time of year again. It's hard to believe that we're at the June Bank holiday weekend, but we do need to see those submissions. We do need to see them soon, ahead of you gathering here again in July for our annual pre-budget forum, and I look forward to engaging with the various organisations around that. We all know, as Catherine and Zoe have referred to, that issues affecting family carers are more than just the income supports that this department provides. And I absolutely know and understand that caring impacts every aspect of life, emotionally, respite, financial supports, and I think Sinead's given us a flavour of that. And that's why today is important. That's why we have a full team here from the department, and I want to acknowledge the work that they do every single day of the year across supporting all of the programmes that come under our department, advocating and engaging with your organisations. And I thank not just the team that are here, but the team that are right across the country working in this space. But we also welcome our colleagues from the Department of Health, from the Department of Children, Disability and Equality, Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage, of Further Higher Education, and from the National Transport Authority and from TUSLA. That shows a cross-government approach to trying to listen, to hear, more importantly, and to understand the challenges the carers are facing. And that is something that I will work on, working with colleagues across government. We are, Catherine, fully committed to fully funding the Carers Guarantee to ensure that that service that you've just outlined there continues and thrives. And I think in a presentation or in a PowerPoint, you don't get the sense of the impact that that service is having, the length and breadth of this island. And we will continue to support Family Carers Ireland. We have continued to grow our investment in home support services for older people in particular, from €495 million in 2020 to €838 million this year. And that has increased care hours and assisted over 57,000 people. However, there continue to be gaps. We will work across all departments, and including in my former department, Department of Enterprise, around work permits and support there that are unnecessarily slow in some cases. Whilst respite continues to be a challenge, €62 million is provided annually to provide respite beds for older people's services. But I hear you, and I want to make that absolutely clear, and we will continue to engage with Minister Carol McNeill around that. Healthcare access is expanding, with GP visit cards automatically granted to carers receiving full or half-rate carers allowance or benefit. And we've increased funding for Meals on Wheels and daycare services, supporting over 300 organisations across the country. And last week, with my Department of Rural and Community Development hat on, we announced significant funding through our social enterprise programme for Meals on Wheels services across the country. So the Department of Social Protection will lead out, and we are very proud and happy to organise today, but more importantly to act on what we hear from today. But this is an all-of-government and holistic approach to reflect your real needs and, more importantly, to deliver on those real needs. There's been a lot of positive change that have come from forums such as this and from the work of your organisations, not just today, but every single day of the year on your behalf and on behalf of carers the length and breadth of our country. I will be looking for the report on today's discussions, and I will engage with that, and we will engage with the organisations right across the summer period ahead of the budget. Tá sé tábhachtach go bhfuil sé bhainniu agus chum buíochas as uachtar an le bheith cuireann go háirithe na daoine óige. I especially want to welcome our young carers here today and acknowledge their work and their outstanding contribution to their caring role. But all of you are absolutely vital. All of you are vital to your families, to those that you care for. And Catherine has given us the economic figures, but are the figures that you cannot put a value on, you cannot put a measure on, are equally as important in terms of the love, the attention, the care that you supply and give to your loved ones. Gurmina Mina Mahagav.
All right, I hope you had a very productive breakout sessions, and we look forward now to the feedback from them, from each individual group, okay? Now, we are now, that clock is wrong, I found out, that's why I came in earlier to some of you. It's now 20 to 25 past, about 22 minutes past 12, right? So we'll try and keep this tight. So I'll call each group up one by one to actually give their feedback. Now, I'm going to start with the first group. Dervla. Where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay, right. And can I ask that for group 2, Ginny or Grace, or whichever is giving feedback, will you just kind of make your way up there and be ready? And then for group 3 on housing, I have Ray, Nathan and Bertie. Whichever one of you is going to be doing the feedback, or if you're going to do a one-hander or two-hander or what you're going to do, make your way up to the top as well. And for the young carers, I've Joe and Elaine. So, who's going to give it? Lucy. Okay, right. Settle yourself up here so you can just follow through one after the other, if that's okay. All right, Devla, sorry.
Thanks, Teresa. So our session was breakout group 1, looking at the social welfare system and how people interact with the system. And we had a very interesting discussion, and I want to thank everybody for their contributions. People told their own personal stories, and that's of course not easy for anybody to do. So we were a bit rushed at the end, but we did kind of agree 3 or 4 points that we'd report back to the plenary session now. So the first one was about the rates of payment for the carers' payments, and that they're too low and people experience poverty, and particularly an issue there that came up was how different payments interact. So if somebody's on one parent family payment and a half rate carers, and then their child ages them out of one parent family payment and they lose that and maybe go to carers allowance or a different payment, and the difficulties that that can cause for people. Another issue that came up in that regard as well was the domiciliary care allowance and the fact of it stopping at age 16. And several contributors made the point that that's the time when teenagers are most expensive, particularly in relation to food and things like that. The cost of living, of course, came up in that context too, and how that's increased in recent years. And we had examples of the bills that people have and how their income is not sufficient always to match those bills. The dual payment issue I mentioned, and that I suppose highlighted another point about the complexity of the system and the amount of information that the department can require for people to submit when they're applying for different schemes, whether it's carers allowance or domiciliary care allowance or another payment. And people spoke about how they have folders and folders of letters and forms and extra information that they've sent to the department. So that's something that we can certainly look at too. A big issue that came up that was people's experience of dealing with the Department of Social Protection when they're applying for payments, and that was whether they were payments that people got or payments that people didn't actually receive, but people reported bad experiences really of dealing with some of our offices, which obviously is not something that we want to hear. We're there to support people, and we know they come to us when things are difficult, so we certainly want to help people as best we can. But we take on board, obviously, people's experience is what's important for them. So I suppose all of the issues were linked in a way, and I think that probably the complexity of the system was something that a thread that runs through all of the issues that came up, and also the issue of the adequacy of payments and how people struggle to meet their monthly or weekly expenses. So look, there was a whole lot more than that, but just which will feed into the report that we have. But I think we agreed at the last minute that those were kind of the 3 or 4 main points to report back. So I hope the group agrees that they're reflected in that, and I'll hand over to the next group then. Thanks.
Hi, I'm just going to feedback on the carer health and wellbeing and access to health and social care supports and services. There's quite a lot discussed, but I'll try and do my best to do it as quickly as possible. I suppose the main issues was the access to respite and the lack of availability of beds and beds being blocked, and also that people are being told when they apply immediately, oh, there's no funding. They don't want to hear the story, so that needs to change. I myself am a full-time working nurse and carer, and didn't identify as a carer until a year ago when I realised, oh, that's actually what I do as well. There's a lot of us who are in the health professionals and education system, holding up the HSE in the education system, predominantly women. We want to stay in the workforce. You need to retain us, our experience and expertise. We're also the squeeze middle, and we're entitled to nothing. It needs to be looked at, specifically around the carers benefit. Where minimum requirement is 13 weeks. Not everyone needs 13 weeks. You need to look at that, okay? And that's unaffordable for many, trying to save up for 3 months mortgage repayments and bills in order to take that. A lot of the time, for anyone looking after children with complex disability needs, the CD&T system is designed towards full-time carers or an at-home parent. The interventions are around attending workshops and training, and the parent is the intervention. So when a parent is working full-time, where are they supposed to do the intervention? So if I want to take a block of carers benefit, I may not need 13 weeks. That needs to be looked at. Okay. The other thing was in relation to health and wellbeing for us as carers. we would like somebody to look at the possibility of carers clinics in primary care health systems around screening checks and looking after us to prevent chronic disease. You know, we're talking about prevention of chronic disease, but actually carers are most at risk of chronic disease prevention, so that could be something that would need to be looked at. The 18.5 hours working limit for those and education limit for those who are on carers allowance and carers benefit. That's very hard to get a job for 18.5 hours. Equally, it's relevant in relation to the income threshold. You know, some people like to work to maintain their connection with the community and their colleagues, and for the level of education and training that they have done and undergone. So they would like to maintain that, and that needs to be looked at. In terms of bespoke wellbeing and interventions to prevent burnout, that needs to be looked at to specific cohorts of workers and not a tick box fits all exercise. There's a number of public bodies have not signed up to the Family Carers Ireland Caring Employers Programme. We were quite shocked at that, and we find that that needs to be looked at. It cannot be a tick box exercise, because carers in education system or in the prison service or guards or nurses are not all the same, not all dealing with the same thing. If you are in the caring profession, that warrants a specific bespoke intervention, because you are caring then 24 hours a day. Okay. In terms of the cross-border treatment scheme, the provision of bank statements on top of all of your receipts and your proof of travel and your toll receipts and your food purchased and your report, that needs to be looked at. That's kind of questioning somebody's integrity on top of providing everything else. For those of us who have children in college not entitled to the SUSI grant, is there access to anything else as an alternative? Maybe transport for children who are travelling for college, who maybe can't afford accommodation. You know, I've had a couple of colleagues who, before this meeting, spoke to me about how they no longer pay for one of their child's therapies because the other child is in college. That's not okay. We need to look at that. Because the DCA and the respite grant doesn't cover all costs, and it does stop at 16. And I think I have mentioned everything. I hope so. So that is health and well-being. Thank you.
Hello everybody, I'm speaking on behalf of the Housing and Transport Supports group, and thanks to everybody who contributed to that group. The three priorities that comes out of our breakout section was, the first one was to do with transport, and it was the availability of supervised bus services for adult day services in rural and I suppose suburban areas. It's making sure that, I suppose, when you're transitioning out of the usual school system, when you're going to the more adult day services, set up that there is bus services there to get people to where they need to go, as opposed to having parents doing the driving. I know in some cases it can be, you could be an hour and a half each way, delivering, collecting the whole lot, and also the escort service on the actual bus is also something that's necessary. One aspect of that was it's funding. We did mention that the local link is there in the more rural areas, and that is available, but it's to make sure that service is joined up, and the key is that it's not something that the parents have to battle for, that it's something that's planned and it is in place for everybody that needs it in those rural areas. And lastly on that item, there was two others, I suppose, sidelines. One was the procurement of trains, buses, the likes of that, making sure that they're properly set up to deal with the people that need them. So especially one point was the trains, that there would be literally press a button, ramp comes out, that you would have the thought put into the procurement of these vehicles that they are fit for purpose for everybody. And lastly, the point was made that the departments such as health and transport need to work together to make sure there is joined up thinking on getting people to where they need to be, especially in rural areas. The second priority was contacts with local authorities to streamline them when it comes to, I suppose, people who are currently residing in council provided housing, that if maintenance is needed, adaptations are needed, that there's an easy way of contacting your local authority, and that response is it's efficient and very effective, and it's done quickly, that you're not trying to battle months, if not a year or more, to get certain aspects fixed or adapted in the house where you need it, that there isn't a battle on the parents' hands to make sure that, we'll say, adults living in council houses and those with supports as well have this done sorted quickly. So I suppose it's all around the local authority and how accessible they are to get these situations resolved satisfactorily. The third priority was future accommodation needs of loved ones who cannot live on their own. That was, I suppose, the biggest priority that came out of the session, the biggest worry that seems to be present. The whole idea of care in the home, you know, once their carers aren't around anymore to actually care for them, that they have somewhere that they can be sure that they're going to be safe and happy and they can continue to live independently, that there's assurances there that they will have that for the rest of their lifetime. There was points made about whether or not they could actually stay in the family home, that a situation could be developed where, we'll say, if they're left in the family home, that maybe others could join them, and that whole co-living piece could be maybe looked at. The point was made that if there was people, we'll say, staying in the house with them, and there was, we'll say, a rental situation, obviously that would have an impact on disability payments and the likes of that. That was another aspect that had to be looked at. And I think that was most of what was discussed at our workshop. I'm sorry if I've missed anything. Hopefully that represented it fairly well, and thanks again to everybody who contributed.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lucy Connor and I'm a young carer. So in our group we talked about the main challenges of being a young carer. So the main thing would be they are not recognised enough in schools and societies. Schools think that we are fine, there's nothing going on at home, if something happens they'll get over it. They have to catch up on all the work, and if you don't, there's big consequences for not doing the work, and you have to explain all your absence in school. Medical professionals don't take us seriously, especially for me. If I go into a pharmacy, they don't give you the medication because of my age. And that is very difficult because my mum is physically not able to get to the pharmacy, so I have to get her medication for her. So just back on like the absence of school, my school has a tyro which my mum has to put up all the absence that I miss on it and explain. And I had a teacher last week come up to me saying that there was not enough work being put in on my parents' half. That's what she said to me in front of all my friends, putting me, shaming me because my mum and dad, there's not enough being done. So that's a big thing. I was so embarrassed, and yeah. So financial challenges, there is no emergency funds if the person that you are caring for gets sick. There's nothing being done. If the person gets sick, you are stuck. All the responsibility is put on us, but there's no support for carers. And touching on mental health as well, most carers tend to lean away from sports and extracurricular because of what's going on at home. Us as carers have had to grow up so fast, and we're not able to get out and do the things that we love doing because of our situation at home. The census statistics don't show the number of young carers that are out there. There's no way that there is that little in such a big place. There has to be a better way to get accurate data and to get people knowing what is going on with young carers. When people hear carers, they don't think it's young people. They think it's people who are of age. They don't think it's minors doing it. So our main 3 key priorities that our group talked about would be support and recognition for young carers within the education system. And students and teachers need to get involved more and need to know what is going on at home. Teachers don't care. They physically don't care what people are doing. They're there to teach you for the 6 or 7 hours and they're out. They don't care. Number 2 would be the mental health support for young carers, which is a big thing. There is not enough support for young carers. Young carers are more prone to getting depression and anxiety because of their situation at home. And number 3 would be the dedicated multi-annual funding for young carers projects to provide information and advocacy. there's not enough funding being done for these groups. Carers can't come together and talk about what is going on at home. They can't, because there's not enough funding being done for this. So I think I touched on everything, but if I didn't, I'm sorry about that. But thank you so much for listening.
Well, sincere thanks to each and every one of you for your feedback and contributions. And I've been writing shorthand. I won't be able to read it now when I go home. But anyway, I've been trying to write down some of the points that you made. I didn't get them all, but anyway, it'll all be part of the actual report from this event. And I know, Derval is going to close now in a minute, but before that, just to say thanks again for that, because I know it's not easy. It's not easy to make yourselves available. It's not easy to be here. It's not easy to actually lay out your story in front of people and to tell it as it is, so appreciate that. So I'll hand over to Derval to close off, and then there'll be a light lunch thereafter. Okay?
Thanks, Teresa. And I just realised I didn't introduce myself the last time I was up here. So for anybody I haven't met already today, I'm Derval McGilvick, and I've just recently moved to the Disability and Carers Policy Unit in the Department of Social Protection. So personally for me, it was great to be here today to listen to people and to meet so many of you, and I hope to meet some more of you over lunch. But I suppose it falls to me to do all the thank yous, which is a nice job to have. But I hope you did find today's discussions useful and the presentations that we had this morning invaluable, and certainly they're very important to the department and to the other departments and organisations that are here as well today to listen. So we do want to acknowledge the effort that it's taken people to come here today or to join us online. We know it's not easy, and as we mentioned earlier, sharing your stories with us is not easy either. And particularly the young carers who've come today and who've spoken in the groups and reported back to us. And I suppose that's a good example maybe of where these forums have had a real, concrete effect, where some of the funding for young carers programmes arose directly from discussions that were had at one of these events a few years ago. So I suppose that's just an example of how these events are really worthwhile, that they're not just talking and listening, that concrete changes can come from them. Just for the people who are online, just to say as well that your feedback has been captured and it will be included in the report from today's discussions as well. So just to say a thank you to Zoe from Care Alliance Ireland for the presentation, and for Catherine and Sinead for their presentations as well. They were all very interesting and insightful. And a broader thanks to Care Alliance Ireland and Family Carers Ireland for their help in organising this event. They're good partners for us for that. The colleagues from other departments and organisations have been mentioned, but to thank them too, because I suppose it highlights how we recognise that these issues are cross-government, and it's part of the effort in breaking down silos that exist. So we have people from the Department of Health, Children, Disability and Equality, Department of Housing, Local Government and Heritage, Further and Higher Education, the National Transport Authority and TUSLA. And if I could just ask the representatives for those organisations a favour to just hold on a few minutes, and we might just have a quick catch up before we break for lunch. So look, as been said a few times today, we really do value these engagements, and these forums do influence policy discussions and decisions. And the Minister mentioned that it's we're in budget mode already, even though it's only just about June in a few days' time. And these discussions do feed into all the deliberations that will go on between now and budget day. And if people are making pre-budget submissions, please do get them into us on time. As soon as you can. So we will have a full report of today. It will be online, including the presentations that we've had and the contributions that came via Slido. So just to say as well that Slido is open till 5 p.m. So if if you're online and you want to add some more comments there, please do. Or people in the room maybe haven't had a chance to do that, you're welcome to do that. So it's accessible at gov.ie/carers forum, or there are QR codes on the tables around the room. You can access it that way too. So just before we finish then, the last few thank yous to Eamon Perrin and his team here at Chartered Accountants House, the team at Creative Technologies and some of our own comms people who looked after the AV aspects for us today. That's a big part of the event, and it's great that we can have these events now with people joining us online so they don't miss out if they can't be here. The facilitators and note takers and people who did the reports back from each of the breakout sessions, and everybody who contributed to the breakout sessions as well. Obviously, that's very important. And then my own team who put an awful lot of work into organising the event today, and particularly Emma, Noel and Una. They've done a lot of work behind the scenes and getting everything organised, and they're here today with other members of staff from the department as well, just keeping everything ticking over for us. So that's it really. For anybody that's here in the room, I hope you can stay with us for lunch, and other than that we'll say goodbye and we'll be in touch, I'm sure, but we'll see you next year at the forum again. So thanks everybody.